Okay, good evening, councilors. It is 6:31. I will call the Tuesday, August 18th meeting of the Superior Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councillor Ledeen. Here. Councillor Van Sickle. Here. Councillor Bender.
Here.
Councillor Sweeney.
Here.
Councillor Fennessy.
Here.
Councillor Elm.
Here.
Councillor Ludwig. Here. Councillor Sutherland.
Here.
Councillor Kern is excused. And Councillor Dabeck.
Here.
We have a quorum.
First item of business is approval of the minutes from the August 4th meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
The motion is by Councillor Bender, the second by Councillor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 5.1 is a public hearing regarding a final resolution introduced by the Plan Commission to vacate a portion of Thompson Avenue known as 23rd Avenue East.
If there is no objection, I will open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak in the public hearing? Is there anybody that would like to speak in the public hearing? And finally, is there anybody that would like to speak to the vacation of Thompson Avenue? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
So moved.
The motion is by Councillor Dahlbeck, second by Councillor Sweeney. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
5.2 is a public hearing regarding a final resolution introduced by the Plan Commission to vacate a portion of East 16th Street and area alleys at Stinson Avenue.
If there is no objection to this public hearing, I will open the hearing. Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Would anybody like to speak? And finally, would anybody like to speak to the vacation of East 16th Street and the area alleys at Stinson Avenue? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
So moved.
The motion is by Councillor Bender, the second by Councillor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Do more.
This time I would make a motion that we could have the presentation about the campus update from EWS.
So a motion to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is by Councillor Bender, second by Councillor Ledeen to suspend the rules and consider the presentation by UW Superior immediately. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries. I believe Chancellor Wachter is making the presentation.
Yep,
Chancellor Wachter, the floor is yours. Thank you.
thank you. All right, this is my fourth meeting technology, so let me see if I can make sure if I can bring up the presentation.
Chancellor, we did get copies of your presentation, and the councilors do have them in front of them also
Okay,
tonight.
great. Excellent. Can you hear me okay? And can you see this okay?
Yes.
And so I appreciate your time today. I wanted to just give you a little bit of a brief update of what's been happening at the university and how we're planning for fall, and some information that we had hoped to share until COVID came along. And just wanted to let you know too how much we value being a part of this community and value part of the connection. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did share, and you probably saw the article in Positively Superior a while back, but that had to do with the economic impact study we conducted already last spring. And just wanted to give some highlights. Last time we did this was 10 years ago. And since that time, we know that within just Douglas County itself, we create at least 626 jobs, that's direct and indirect, and have an economic contribution of more than 54 million. And We're proud of that. We want to keep supporting our community to keep people employed, to keep jobs here, and to make sure our students are getting connected with the community as well. The campus has also been very hard at work. Part of it has been spurred by COVID, but we had some really creative things going on as well, and just wanted to give you some update of some of the new programs that we're offering on campus. One that's about to be launched is the newly designed major called Public Leadership and Innovation. I've got a caveat there saying it's hybrid, meaning part of it may be online, but most of it will be on campus. Psychology, which was typically an on-campus program, is now online. Computer science, which was a campus-based program, is now being offered in both formats as well. We've also been re-emphasizing what we call our self-design major, and really that's for a number of reasons. It's a program where if you've started a degree and need to complete, we can help you do that. But also if you're interested in particular areas where a major doesn't exist, we can help you package together a selection of courses that really fits your interests and abilities. And then finally, something that we called Plan U, and that was for students really who were going to think about taking a gap year in COVID, not sure what they wanted to do, but wanted to make some progress toward a degree. So it's 12 credits, it's online, and focuses around the things that they would take in the general studies area. We also have some graduate programs that are now online and available. One in cybersecurity. That's a topic on everybody's mind, especially as there's been some pretty prominent data breaches lately. An MS, a master's in information technology management. And we're very excited about these. These are going online this fall. We're already enrolling students, and that's our master's in school counseling. And our general counseling program will also be online as well. So when we think about community counseling, marriage counseling, family counseling, that's online as well. Continuing ed has also been hard at work, really trying to tap into the needs that businesses are expressing. One was for sure marketing, both what we think of as typical print media, but also digital marketing. How do you digitally market your business? So this certificate is available and running. There's also been several new workshops and something new that we called the Copy Break series, which are free. And maybe the one I was most excited about, I hate to say it, was the science and art of brewing. So hard at work there as well. Lots of innovative things, I think, that are very distinctive for our campus.
Say, Renee, could that one be repeated, please? The one on brewing?
Okay, Counselor, why don't we save the questions for the end?
We'll save questions to the end. Forget it.
Okay. So that brings us to the fall, and I just want to say you would be so proud of the people on campus. We moved to telecommuting in the middle of March, and it has been nonstop ever since. And I'm so proud of the faculty in all areas and the staff who are really have made an all-out commitment to try to make this go this fall. And I just want to give you some highlights. So of the classes that we would have normally offered on campus, 46% of those are going to move online. But I'm proud to say that 54% will be on campus with safety measures in place, and I'll talk about what that means. But that's pretty significant. We really tried to focus on our first-year students coming in, knowing that they need that one-on-one interaction and connection with both their faculty and their fellow students to be successful. Things like labs and music that really require specialized equipment and rooms are also on campus. 95% of our faculty this summer went through something that we called the superior learning experience, and that was really to kind of enhance their skill set and their toolkit so that they were able to provide a high quality learning experience for students in an online environment. This spring was like a had to. This is much more deliberate so that if we have to make the switch this fall and go completely online, we're ready to go. Also training, both for our instructors, for the campus, for our students, trying to emphasize a culture of care, trying to emphasize responsible behavior, and really this idea of taking care of each other by wearing masks, remaining socially distant, good sanitary practices, washing your hands, etc. And then IT investments. One of the things we experienced in the spring was that students didn't really sometimes have access to the Wi-Fi, and so we've been upgrading the Wi-Fi hotspots on campus and around so you can get it in the parking lot. You can be at Burger King and surfing and still being able to take your classes. Campus life is going to look different. We're still emphasizing minimal physical presence on campus. We've staggered our move-ins, which will be happening already, not this weekend, but the next weekend. Meals are socially distant in the dining hall, packaged to go. Virtual appointments with a lot of our career counselors, advisors, etc. The rooms have all been socially distance arranged. We've got plexiglass shields in place to protect our faculty, face shields. All students will receive face masks. We have self-isolations room if we have students that come down with COVID or are suspected of having symptoms, trying to keep as much virtual as possible, but still provide engagement. And then finally, health and safety measures. There is a face covering requirement for all of our visitors on campus. We are really trying to restrict visitors to really only essential business only. Like I said, classrooms have been reconfigured. Sanitation schedules have been accelerated. So lots of where you've got high touch areas being cleansed multiple times a day, deep cleaning at night. We've got hospital grade disinfectants that we're using. We actually bought our sanitizer local. We wanted to keep as much local as possible. We have an electrostatic sprayer that can also help us sanitize rooms. We have a testing protocol that we've put in place. We have contract testing and tracing available through one of our local health providers. As you might have seen in the news, the governor has increased the budget available to us to be able to do what we call antigen testing for our residence hall students, and that will occur every 2 weeks. We're supposed to get the machine on Friday, so knock on wood, we'll see how that turns out. And then again, through this whole process of all of this protocol development, all of the health and safety measures, we've been working very, very closely with UW System, with local Douglas County Health, following CDC guidelines, poor Nick, working with the NCAA and its ever-changing landscape. We've been holding just roundtable leadership forums with our local city and county leaders and educational leaders to share information and best practices, all with the idea of trying to promote the reopening as safely as we can, promoting safety and promoting transparency. And I know that's a lot, but I think we're ready. We're all a little tired, but we're excited to have our new students on campus and to do so as safely as we can do it.
Are there questions for the Chancellor? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Chancellor.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Kern, did you join the meeting? If I could hear from you, Councillor Kern, I can get you in the minutes.
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, the minutes will reflect that Councillor Kern joined at 6:41 prior to item number 6.
Item number 6 is the consent agenda.
Motions by Councillor Fennessy, second by Councillor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 7.1 is a Public Works Committee special meeting from July 29th. That recommendation will be approved under item 8.3. Item 8.1 is approval of miscellaneous licenses.
Motion approved.
Motions by Councillor Bender, second by Councillor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
8.2, Parks, Recreation, Forestry Director Kadat is recommending the Central Park Fence Project be awarded to Dairyland Fence for the proposed not to exceed $28,200.
Motion approved. Second.
The motion is by Councillor Fennessy, second by Councillor Bender. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
8.3, Public Works Director Janigo and Collection Systems Engineering Operations Manager Abramson is recommending approval to waive the bidding requirement for the purchase of a 2021 Freightliner combination machine from McQueen Equipment from the Minnesota State bid contract for a net cost of $396,011.
Motion approved.
The motion is by Counselor Elm, the second by Counselor Dahlbeck. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 8.4, Public Works Director Janico is recommending approval to authorize a 20-year land lease agreement with Calvin Cramp, Superior Flying Service LLC for lease hangar site A1 for plans to provide and conduct aviation-related services at the Richard I. Bong Memorial Airport.
Motion approved.
So moved.
The motion is by Counselor Dahlbeck, second by Counselor Bender. Is there discussion?
Mayor, may I ask a question here?
Counselor Sutherland.
Did we do this last year? I thought we did something like this, or is it a total different hangar, or minus on?
I think this is a
Looking at
different
this one.
lease. Is Todd on the phone?
Yeah, Councilor Kelvin Cramp or Mr. Cramp from Superior Flying Services is buying the hangar from Eugene Amorti. So it'd be just the same lease, but for a different hangar.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 9.1, Mayor Payne is requesting discussion regarding the general fund and CIP priority rankings.
Thank you, counselors. A few of you reached out to me after I sent you the worksheets for the general fund and the CIP priorities setting, said that you would have questions for department heads, and that I forget who said this to me directly, but that one of the advantages of meeting together at previous sessions was the question that one person had might be a question that everybody had, or even if they didn't have that question, it might provide more information. So we are still working on the budget. We are hoping to finalize both of these budgets this week and then just be cleaning up for the next week in advance of a September 1st presentation. But I wanted to afford you the opportunity to ask myself or our department heads any questions you might have about the priorities that were listed in either the general fund, excuse me, or CIP worksheets that I sent you. I don't know if Sue Heskin managed to join us, but I did have a conversation with her, and I believe I can adequately explain that particular priority about the library. So that said, are there questions that I or the department heads can answer? Councilor Ledeen.
All right, Ben, bear with me as the new one to the council on this budget. I do have a lot of questions. Is Chief Alexander on by any chance?
Or John, or Assistant Chief Keel?
Or Assistant Chief?
Alexander's on.
Pleasure, Chief. Thank you. A few questions for you, sir, regarding some of these questions that were put to us. Currently, right now, how would you rate the fleet of police officer vehicles that we have?
Well, I think our fleet is in probably better shape than it's been in for years. Over the past couple of years, there's been additional funding to support the take-home squad car program, and I do think we are starting to see the benefits of that now in terms of as we were reviewing the budget and annual expenditures over the past few years, our maintenance budget seems to be not being used as much as before, which was one of the anticipated results of having a take-home squad car fleet, because it, one, takes pressure off of the fleet vehicles that are used by multiple officers, and then ultimately cars assigned to people seem to be taken care of betterly, or more better. But right now the fleet's in pretty solid shape. I would say certainly probably in the best condition it's been in since I've been chief.
Thank you. Next one. In the assessing of training for officers, how would you assess the current training levels and hours for our police officers? Are they adequate? A few of the examples that were stated were dive team, de-escalation, crisis intervention trainings. Are we lacking, falling behind in those? What is your opinion?
Well, definitely, I'll be candid there. I do think that that's an area that our budgets struggle and has historically struggled on. Our police department has at any given time 55 to 60 officers on it. By state training and standards, rules and regulations, we have to train a minimum of 24 hours or the equivalent of 3 days of professional development for each officer every year. When you look at a training budget in our amount, that's under $1,000 per officer per year that's being trained. In a line of work where we expect people to make difficult decisions under high stress and to have some competence in a wide range of responses. So I definitely think that that's an area, and it's nothing new. I've continually asked for greater training dollars over the years. Sometimes we've been able to find a little bit here or there, and we've brought in some extra trainings to the department. And then I've also looked at grant opportunities. Last year, a good example was I brought fair and impartial policing to the police department, mandatory training for all of our officers. We even trained some community members on it. And it talked about issues of de-escalation, professional communications, and implicit or unconscious bias. And this was before we were, seeing, organizations and others out there calling for those types of trainings for the police. It's something that we brought here, but that was a $15,000 curriculum for our department. So never would be able to accommodate that type of training with our existing training budget, but I was able to secure a grant from the Wisconsin Department of Justice to bring it. So, I look for creative ways to use grant dollars and other things, distance learning and so on. But, I think the current times have demonstrated that, the public demands and expects, a very professional police department that's capable of handling and responding to calls in many different ways. And that's certainly challenging. I mean, there's obviously the core skills where officers have to, drive an emergency vehicle properly, and there's use of force issues when we talk about, how we affect arrests of non-compliant or resistant people. There's obviously firearms components, professional communications, cultural awareness, and bias trainings, and that's an awful lot to try to accommodate in just 24 hours. So without going on much longer, I mean, I will continue to argue that I think that that's something that's necessary for us to to invest money in our department. We have a lot of money involved, invested in our officers just by hiring them and getting them through recruit school. And I do think that, we have a good body of data over the past 5 years to show that we have a pretty good return on investment in these training dollars that we've been spending. Our use of force has dropped every year, I think, for the last 5 years in the city of Superior. We are currently at an average for the last 5 years of 0.7% of all of our arrests result in a use of force. So less than 1%. And for a department that makes over 2,000 arrests per year, I think that's pretty good evidence that some of the training that we've invested in terms of de-escalation and use of force are definitely paying off. And if we see value in that and want to continue in that direction, then I do believe that we need to invest in the appropriate training and equipment that, gives our officers the best chance to be able to do that job safely.
So, Counselor, I would just add a technical point to that. So this is referring to item number 10 in the general fund priorities, police department training. Okay. This isn't referring to the mandatory training that police officers must go through. In addition to that, all departments have a training budget, and I've generally asked department heads to have their staff get some training, 1 to 2 forms of training a year. Now, that looks very different in different departments in the police department. So what you're being asked about here is that list that the police chief described, the much more extensive training in these skills that are not as traditional police training skills. And so why I wanted all of these ranked is there's not a set dollar amount on that. We could add $10,000 and do a little bit of this training. We could add $50,000 and do a lot of it. So I'm trying to gauge just how important this is to the council. I assume this is important to most councilors. I know that already, but if everybody was valuing this highly, it's going to get more money than it otherwise would.
Chief, another question for you. One of the things we were asked about was the police department's social worker. In your opinion, how would you deploy this police department social worker? What kind of situations would you see them taking part in? And is this something you believe rank and file would also like to see on this force?
Well, I definitely believe that we'd have the support of the rank and file on it. I mean, I think our officers are all well too aware that they're oftentimes thrust into dealing with situations and trying to find resolutions on, a wide variety of issues that they may not be the best equipped people to deal with. I talked about this idea of a social worker, an embedded social worker in the police department for probably about 3 years now. We all know funding, the dollar is always probably the biggest obstacle. And, over the past couple of years, we haven't seen grant opportunities for it. And Douglas County Health and Human Services or the police department's budget hasn't been able to accommodate that. I very much see it as being beneficial. I view it more as what I would call a co-responder model. I don't envision it being the type of situation where a call comes into 911 and the 911 center just says, well, we don't need a police officer on this call, let's send the social worker. And largely because, the calls come out with a fair amount of ambiguity to them, and it's not until staff get on scene that you can really assess what the problem is. So oftentimes, a call where somebody's in a mental health crisis or maybe homelessness or some other issues that might be better served by another professional originally come out as either a disturbance or suspicious circumstances or so on. And I do think it's important that, law enforcement respond to those calls to make sure that we have a safe environment. So when I say a co-responder model, I'm talking about when we do have a social worker embedded in the department working. I mean, we can with a high probability predict which calls are going to be likely to have an element to them where a social worker would probably be able to better provide the services. So those would be the calls that would be co-responded to. And I do see, in many cases where a situation could be assessed and determined to be safe, where the law enforcement side of that response could probably free up and go on to, other areas where they're more needed. And then the social worker does the follow-up there. There will be times where, for safety, that I think that they both have to maintain there. And then there'll be the other aspect of it. I mean, if, bringing on a social worker to the department, I mean, I'll be optimistic and say, hey, everybody thinks there's a great value in that, so we hire a social worker to work on the police department. I mean, that would pretty much be, a 40-hour-a-week job, so we wouldn't have 24-hour coverage. So a big aspect of that job too would be reviewing the reports and incidents from the night before and determining which ones would have had a benefit for a social work intervention on them, and then doing immediate follow-up. And I do think there's a lot of value to that, because right now, that may take 5 to 7 days to happen. Somebody might not get reached out after we have initial contact with them and refer them for, 3, 5, 7 days, where in a co-responder model, they would likely be having somebody reach out to them within 24 hours if it didn't happen immediately.
I'm sorry, Counselor, I want to add just a couple things to this too, because some other city staff have brought this up as well. And if I could rewrite this today, I might not even describe it as a police department social worker. I'd describe it as a city social worker, only because it could have value across the city. Namely, Sue Heskin brought this up today, that the library also has a number of interactions that librarians are just not trained to handle. And so we have a situation right now where we have a number of interactions across the city where a social worker would have a great deal of value. Think building or code compliance alone could benefit from some extra professional help. So right now we're in a situation where we're trying to give police officers and librarians and firefighters, et cetera, social work training. This concept is, should we just hire a social worker? One thing I want to caution you about, though, we need not draft a whole policy around this in the context of this budget. What this is, say, do you believe strongly enough in this concept that we should fund it? The policy road is much longer and will require a number of conversations, probably through more than one committee. It will take months at the earliest to get something like this done, but funding is a pretty important step. It would be much, much harder to do it if we didn't have it funded in the general fund. And finally, you'll notice I put an estimated cost of $100,000 annually in there. It's probably more than it would require, but social workers are hard to hire these days, so we would probably need to create something of a lucrative position.
Okay. I have no more questions for the police chief. I don't know if anyone else wants to. I have other questions for other department
Why don't you
heads.
continue with the floor, Counselor? We'll
Okay.
come back.
Is Director Kadat on?
I am.
A few questions for you, if I may. How would you rate the current shape of the Superior's parks, and where can you see the biggest areas of improvement needed for our parks?
Well, that's a very robust question. I will try to be concise on it. Parks and Rec maintains almost 50 sites across town and almost 5,000 acres. So when you start to whittle that down, we've got over 140 acres of mowing and trimming, 7 boat launches, 30 mutt mitt dispensers, a half dozen restrooms, 60 miles of trails, almost 150 trash and recycling cans. And so when you start to really ask a question like, how is the shape of our parks? I think that in the last 5 years that Russ and I have been at the helm, 18 of the 50 sites have had some sort of major project happening in them. Looking at over the next 5 years, another 20 that will need quite a bit of attention, and then in the next 10 plus years, some improvements as well. So I think overall, when I look at the quality of work that the crew does with the number of staff that we have, I'd say it's at least an 8. But if you look at really the fine-tuned details and you take on the urban forest of the boulevard trees and the municipal forest, I'd probably put us closer to like around a 6. The areas that need of improvement, that again is I find that as a very difficult question. But I think that, what the public most looks at is quality of work, outdated equipment, facility repairs, tree work, the obvious tree work like pruning and removals. And I think that, on a more micro level, we could also, take a closer look at our skating rinks and programs and ball fields and tennis courts and other programming as well. So that's how I'll answer that for right now.
Thank you. Could you speak to the issue that we had seen of 1 full-time employee versus 3 part-time or seasonal employees for you, and the benefits that you see to going about employment that way?
Sure. I think that the main benefit of having a full-time employee versus seasonal employees would be that we would have 1 more operator with a CDL year-round. If you really get into it, the repeat seasonal trainings, the hiring time, the impact on operations when people take time off, and summer is usually a time when that occurs. So if you have a base staff of 7 with a flex of 9 seasonals, this year, unfortunately, we weren't able to keep more than the most seasonals we got out of the 9 that we had budgeted. We were able to get 6, and that only lasted for 2 weeks and consistently had 4 seasonals. So we were half the seasonals that we were allotted. And the seasonals just really don't come with the operator freedoms that a permanent staff member has. And when I mentioned all of the different projects that we've got going on, and a lot more of that in the last 5 years has been done in-house, I think there would be really the benefit of that operations and consistencies of and support with the CDL.
And Mayor, question in regards to that. When we say full-time employment, is this someone who would receive benefits as a full-time employee, pensions, health insurance?
Yes. So, let's see, this is item number 4 on the general fund priorities that you're referring to.
Yes.
You see an increase of about 30,000 annually. That's even after eliminating the budgeted 3 seasonal positions. We would get that money back, but then we'd have to add an additional 30,000 to cover the benefits, and we project an average benefits of half plus 1. That's pretty close to the average cost. Okay. I'm sorry, individual plus 1.
Individual plus 1. And then one more question, Director Kadat. would you see the Parks and Recs operating more efficiently with a full-time admin position versus the two seasonals, and why? Or is this a big priority for you?
So I think that, well, you're referring to the seasonal summer and then the winter program coordinator.
Okay.
I think the main operational efficiencies will be garnered from having a person that's able to grow in the position. You know, there's a decent amount of time if it is an annual turnover for the posting, interviewing, hiring, and most importantly, training. You know, Chief Alexander mentioned earlier being able to capitalize on that return of investment. We see that this position over the last 5 years with 3 different people coming and going from it, we're just not really able to, you know, you get to the point where they're hired, they're trained into all the nuances of the ball fields and the pavilions, and they start to wrap their head around the systems and the volunteer projects and what sort of things volunteers can do. And then they start to meet all of the different businesses and folks that have adopted the different parks. And then next thing you know, they're moving on, and we're completely retraining someone in on that. And this would tie into both the 4th of July celebration and the Lake Superior Ice Festival. You know, our department has expanded on those, and also supporting all of the community events and the various reservations that I already mentioned. From the overall customer service perspective, there'd be more the continuity, therefore the quality, and really the difference of no fault to their own, but seasonals versus folks that are invested in the position. It is a different skill set for the winter coordinator position, but it's really similar. I think the best comparison is if you look that we've had the same summer playground program coordinator for the last decade plus, and you can see her ability to really expand and modify and just slightly tweak the programming and really just provide an awesome customer quality of programming for the community. And unfortunately, if someone's just dabbling with it in the winter position, I feel like we're not able to really produce the outcomes, and wasting, truth be told, wasting a lot of other time training and onboarding and trying to get to that point of independence just for them to move on.
Thank you very much for that, Director Cadotte. I don't have any further questions for for Parks and Rec. I do have a couple for Public Works, if anyone from there is, if Todd is on.
Yes, I'm on.
Director, we had communicated back and forth earlier. I was hoping that in the CHIP priority rankings, if to talk about 21st Street, 28th Street, 31st, and Barker's Island, and the importance of those, or if you even had to rank these 4 projects, which is in need of most repair, and what is the biggest issues there?
Well, the 28th Street paved path isn't a street project, so that's a path. I believe Councilor Sutherland is looking at that one, and this is one of his projects, running from Elmira to Oaks Avenue. And I don't know if there's plans at this point to go further than that, but that's the one section. 31st Avenue East, that was a project that we put on the books about 7 or 8 years ago when we started receiving money from Enbridge for leases. They were and easements through city property. It's a road that once when they're doing all those big construction projects out there, they have a tendency to tear up the gravel road, tear up the asphalt, and we were going to put a concrete surface out there. Now with the Nemanji Trail Energy Center also going out there, we thought that it would be a good fix to repair that road. I don't think that a full reconstruct is going to be necessary. I think there's plenty of gravel base there. Some grading and some profiling will definitely have to be done to get some of the bigger parts and equipment over that railroad crossing. But the section from East 2nd to East 5th would definitely should be rebuilt at some point. The Parker's Island Causeway, that bridge was put in, and I want to say the early 70s, mid 70s. somewhere in there. We had it looked at recently. Somebody went through it. They did not think that it needed a weight restriction. So it is holding up, but it's very narrow. It's a wooden deck. The causeway itself is narrow, and we are having losing material along the abutments in a couple of spots. So we're going to try to figure out what's going on there. But that was one of my priorities as far as it's a one-way in and one-way out. And if that bridge goes, if that causeway fails, there's no way to get to the island. And then the 21st Street pavement repair, that was a placeholder that we put in for and some LRIP funding that was available last year. With not knowing where the Hammond Avenue stuff was going to fall and not knowing what the CIP was going to look like prior to the last go around, we used that as a placeholder. So I guess between the four, my priority would be the Barker's Island Causeway.
Thank you very much, Director. I have no more questions, Mayor Payne.
Other questions?
Mayor Payne, man.
Councilor Sutherland.
Thank you. Just a quick question. This list you have here, number 9, like for example, mass transit increase on there for the DTA. Is the DTA not going to have an operations analysis be done probably in 2021, 2022?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again? I didn't quite hear you.
Will there be a DTA operations analyst, like a survey done by 2021, 2022?
Yes, there is a study underway to look at a number of things with transit. We also have some old studies. What this would do would be, well, we could do anything we want with it, but effectively it would allow us to fund the recommendations of that study or whatever we chose to increase.
Okay, just curious if we're doing it backwards here, and then may I direct a question towards Chief Alexander?
Yes.
Police Chief, hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. I'm looking into the CIP. I'm looking at a phone here. Under deferred, approved but deferred funding, I believe it is take-home squads. I see Councilor Ledeen kind of touched on it a little bit, but one thing I want to ask is, do you feel this program is complete? Like, do you feel like we are at 100% that what this did, it served its purpose, or do you think we need to add some more squads?
Well, in terms of the definition of our take-home squad program would be that all eligible officers that work for the department, are assigned a car. So that means that they live in the city limits, that they're off of probation. And right now, I believe we have 4 or 5 officers that would still need to be assigned cars. So in that sense, the program isn't complete. When we did start the program, it was based off of data that talked about getting to a full implementation, that was going to be in the area of probably 12 to 15 cars, to assign out to the officers on the department. So, I think we're in the area 9 or 10 right now. So it hasn't reached the full capacity or the 100% implementation mark. The studies that showed cost savings over time are obviously based off of you getting to the full implementation level and then maintaining it.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor Payne. Thank you.
Councilor Bender.
Yes, a couple things. First of all, since I'm on the library board, I will speak to eliminate library late fees. And I think, it's a good move. It's not going to cost a lot of money. And we have discussed that at the library, at the last library board meeting. So I would be in favor of that. And then I also wanted to speak about, and raise this up here, about mass transit. I know there are lots and lots of people that take mass transit. They rely on that for getting to work, both people in Superior and in Duluth. So I think that would be a very good investment. And I think tomorrow we have a MIC meeting. It'll probably come up in that meeting, the same thing. So we'll see. But anyway, so that's my only 2 things that I wanted to speak to as far as right now.
Just like to add to that, Sue Heskin asked me to share just a few facts regarding late fees at the library. There are currently roughly $38,000 in outstanding library late fees. What the library board is effectively offering is, for a $10,000 increase in their allocation, they will wipe out $38,000 in outstanding fees. And to make that a little bit more real, there are currently 500 people that are blocked from borrowing from the library due to overdue fines. 100 of them are children. Other questions? Councilor Fennessy.
So with that, I guess I'm not following if they're going to waive $48,000 in fees, why do they need $10,000?
Just to help make they get about, so I'm sorry, $38,000 is what's owed to them in fees. They generally get about $10,000 in revenue from the fees. So not everybody ends up paying their fee, and so about $10,000 is coming in from it. Obviously, that's not necessarily going to make or break their budget, but they do have pretty tight budgets, so that would allow their budgets to bounce without any real change.
Okay, and then can you explain how I know it's funded kind of separately. It's part of the city funded differently. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, there's a single allocation that we make annually. It is a part of the general fund. We've generally made the same allocation year over year. I think we have some obligation to fund a part of it, but we fund a little bit above that, or maybe a lot. I don't know the actual split there, but we do not control what the library board does with it. So the library board is in full control of the library. However, they do ultimately submit a budget to the city council for nominal approval. I think the finance committee actually reviews and approves that. So we will give them the money first, then they will decide what to do with it, and they'll submit it to you, but ultimately they're still in charge of their budget.
And so we fully fund the library. There isn't any federal dollars in there.
There's some state grants, and of course they raise some of their own money, and Douglas County pays some as well.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Further questions, Councilor Allen.
Okay, regarding the CIP worksheet here, we have the existing funding, the approved but deferred funding, and we've kind of touched base on a lot of this at the moment. But I was wondering if each department head could kind of touch base on items that we haven't talked about at the moment, like building maintenance. How are we doing with that? Just to kind of give us a better idea. We've been putting money into sidewalks. Has anything else slid back? Anything that we should be addressing? Maybe we could start with Public Works on that, and Todd.
With which one? Sidewalks, Councilor?
Well, just just to kind of give a comparison of the general street maintenance, the condition of that versus sidewalks versus building maintenance.
Okay, I'm sorry, which one they feel is most important? That's the question?
Correct.
Okay.
Like we've been putting money into sidewalks in the past few years. Have we been adequately funding the street maintenance, or has building maintenance been kept up? Just from a bigger picture perspective, that are we overfunding the sidewalks and we should be focusing on building maintenance, just to kind of get a better grasp of these items, because these are just one line items. It doesn't really say where we're at necessarily in comparison.
So I'll turn that over to Todd in a minute. You may want Director Kadat to answer that as well. She supervises buildings and grounds. But I just want to answer first because I added the building maintenance line item a few years ago. And part of that was because most of our building projects were getting individually funded in the CIP. We didn't have a line item for maintenance per se. It was just whenever a project would come up, it would get requested to the CIP, or if it was small enough, like some of our fire hall projects, it would be requested in the general fund. And so my opinion on it was, let's try and get ahead and do some maintenance in advance of that. Well, because we still had a lot of those projects scheduled, we haven't needed to dip into this building maintenance fund yet. So the premise is at some point in the next 5 years, we will need to repair something. And if we don't, it will lead to a much larger building project that we will have to fund, and it will be more expensive. And so that's the gist of building maintenance. The only reason if I seem hesitant to answer what's the condition of our buildings, it's we don't know. And that would probably be, if this was funded adequately, my proposal for really the first expenditure out of the building maintenance fund would be to do an evaluation of all of our buildings, bring in a consultant to actually review them all and make recommendations of what minor or major projects should happen and in what order. And then, Director Kadat, do you have anything to add to that about overall building maintenance?
I'd echo what you said about what the first steps would be. I think that over the past, I can speak to like the past 7 years where we've been really playing a lot of catch up, like with our Fairlawn Mansion and with Marina, where, you know, there are still docks that have the same infrastructure that they had when they were built and some code compliance issues. We've been kind of doing more of a catch up, I think. And similarly with the maintenance of the various structures around town, including playgrounds, it's like it kind of just, as with most or many municipalities, it gets to its life's end and then we replace and then we kind of let it go for another 25 to 50 years and then we replace. So we've been playing a bit of catch up. I think we've come a long way with especially the funding that's been put into the marina over the last several years and the Fairlawn. But we, you know, like right now we've got a boiler that system that is about to fail in the Fairlawn and now we're replacing it because it's about to fail. So that kind of, without really diving into the overall assessment of each, I think that's something that could definitely use some attention, but not at the expense of sidewalks or anything else. It's a tough balance.
And Director Janigo, do you want to speak to the overall condition of our streets and sidewalks?
Sure. Streets, I want to say if we did a 1 through 10 ranking, I wouldn't say we're at the top of the list. I wouldn't say we're at the bottom of the list. I'd say we're about average for this area of the country, maybe a little bit above. As far as the funding goes for those types of things, a big portion of the general street maintenance budget goes for two things. One is hot mix asphalt, which we use for our paving program. So you see a lot of milled and overlaid streets so far this summer. And then the other part of it is the chemical and the abrasives that we use in the winter. The problem with or not the problem, the interesting part of the general street maintenance is with the short construction season we have, there's a finite amount of I guess, for lack of a better term, money that we can spend. We're kind of maxed out with the amount of paving we can do with the number of people we have and the amount of days that we have to do it in the summer. So a significant windfall in that account is not going to be something that would bear a lot of fruit at this point, I don't believe. Sidewalks, however, those are contracted out, and I know that we have a need for sidewalks. At a $700,000 a year, Chris and I had figured this out earlier today. At about $700,000 a year into sidewalks, if we were to put that into it, it would take about 45 years to replace the sidewalks in the city. So I think sidewalks could, if you're looking for some place to beef up, sidewalks would be the place that I would look.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not disagreeing with this process, but for me, I just need to look at the overall budget that's going to be coming out whenever, and I assume you're going through it like we did the last 2 years, which I applaud you for, almost line item by line item. Okay. So
Not almost.
Okay. But that's an important piece there, for me at least, okay? So what is the overall view for next year and the next 3 years? Where is the terminal tax going to come into this? And so there are a number of questions that I have to have answered before I have some items too. There's a couple on this list, some others that I would add on. But all these items here, I think, with 10 items are, for the most part, additions to the budget, okay? And so I think we've got to be aware of and be very efficient in protecting our assets that we have from the standpoint of maintenance, repair. It's always good, it's glorious to have new things, but we can't let the old things go by the board. And it costs money, and we have to develop maintenance programs. And so that's most of my interest is in those areas, is protecting what we have and making sure that is up to date and adequate. And so some of these things, they're all good. I would have my priorities, but I still have to look at where you're coming from, where our budget is, where are we coming from, what's the next 3 years going to bring. And I know you're working on it, and so that's I don't have a whole lot to say about any item I might want to add, because maybe we don't have any money for any of these. That could be a possibility. Maybe some things have to be, this is my old speech, which I give every year, but maybe some departments have to cut something to get something, okay? And so that's all I'm going to.
I have a little bit to respond to that, Councillor, but I'll wait for the end, except to say that we can fund everything on these lists. Well, every individual thing, we cannot fund them all. And in some cases, say, for example, item number 1, to reduce the property tax levy, that could well wipe out every other priority on this list. If that's what the council truly values, really doesn't matter what your second choice is. That is also true of reducing debt in the CIP. So obviously the expenses of these are very have very different weight. And I can speak a little bit more to the process at the end. I just want to make sure we use the department head's time effectively. Are there any further questions about these priorities or questions for the department heads? Councillor Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little unorganized here, so I apologize. But I'm remembering last year the process where I kind of had it all figured out in my head, and then each department head spoke, and I changed almost all of them. And I'm feeling that way right now. So I don't know if department heads have seen these, but I feel a little more educated now, because I think, last year we made some adjustments, and I agree with Councillor Sweeney. Protecting our infrastructure and keeping it up is an important charge of ours. But I'm ashamed to say, so I guess I'll say it publicly, that I didn't even rank police training at all, because I don't know if I had a really clear understanding of what that meant. But when you look at existing funding and, proposed, it's a lot of vehicles. It's, when you look at the first 5, they're like all public works. But it's, police and fire, take-home squad, those types of things. So I guess it's really easy to feel like maybe that is just the most important thing, but it's good to hear that there is some results, Chief Alexander, in that you're seeing your maintenance budget decreasing as expected, and that you feel that your fleet is in the best condition since you've been chief. I think that's good news. But in terms of, and you alluded to this, meeting the moment, it's nice to have nice cars and toys and shiny things. You want your equipment to perform. It's also nice in the parades, but do we have compassionate, competent, well-trained officers on our force? And that's certainly a priority of mine, but I didn't rank it. So thanks for explaining that. And I think, last year we credit to Counselor Fennessy, with the radios and the take-home squad. I think we did some adjusting in the last minute to make sure those were funded, but I hope that we have another opportunity to fill this out. Just scratch what you have, Reverdy, thanks. So I have a lot of questions about an embedded social worker, not about funding it, but other things that we would have to work out later, like who would supervise this individual and how would we make sure that the culture clash in the work environment is protected and things like that. But that's obviously way down the road in terms of making sure that we're not using a social worker to fill the decency gap, so to speak. Kind of like an anger translator for those that are familiar. Anyhow, is Megan Meyer on the phone?
If she's not, Director
Okay.
Cadot and I can do our best.
Okay. I just want to make sure I have this clear. So museums, of course, are on here for projects, but it doesn't exactly detail sort of what those projects are. But the general maintenance is typically funded from building maintenance. And can you explain how this is different, please?
So general maintenance it's not outlined in the agreement, but it's roughly those expenses that are under $2,000 to $5,000. They vary in our various agreements, but that's kind of the guide between $2,000 and $5,000. Anything that falls under that amount is up to the museums. So any capital projects or any large expenses projects fall to the city of Superior.
Okay.
And they're not detailed on there because that is an ever-changing, pressing prioritization based on the immediate needs. Like the roof is leaking, we've got windows that are leaking, we've got basement that are leaking. So we've been playing catch up, and I think if we round the corner and get to the point of having a long-term maintenance funding, that would go a long way for the museums in particular.
Okay.
I would just also add. The museums are not like our other buildings. They are by far the most sensitive structures in the city. The problems creep up very quickly, and they are usually emergent due to the nature of these buildings. You can't necessarily just plug and play replace the things that go wrong with them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it definitely feels like we don't have enough numbers here to allocate, but just to echo a couple of things in terms of sidewalk, I'm really hoping that we can see through the equipment to take on a new role in our city to start clearing those sidewalks. And Public Works is going to develop some plans and some routes and things like that. So I certainly invite you to Public Works to be a part of that conversation. But maybe even more than that, I think a lot of you are familiar with the ad hoc committee that we developed last year regarding mass transit, and there were a variety of stakeholders, namely CASDA, Harbor House, things like that, those types of folks. And the work that we did really garnered a lot of attention from the state, and we were able to secure and match some of that study money. So a lot of good progress. So thank you for that. That's all.
I would add, in terms of evaluating these CIP projects, the existing adopted CIP should still be a very valuable tool because we adopt proposed budgets for subsequent years. So in each of these items, you'll be able to see projected cost, what we projected for it, except with the new projects. But even in those cases, I offered you some suggested amounts. And in the case of reducing debt, you can just look at how much we have allocated and eventually pick a number. Other questions? Okay, thank you, counselors. The only...
You didn't see my
I'm
light,
sorry,
Mayor.
Counselor Ludwig.
So, yeah. I just wanted to, I remember you last year, Mayor, saying that, these decisions we would make would be very hard, and they were, and they still are. And one of the things is, when you read just, a paragraph about the wants and the needs, it's like I wanted to hear more or from the department heads, and we are in a situation where we did receive some written correspondence from one of the department heads, and so the mayor and I discussed this about making it equal with all the department heads to communicate with us. And so right now I am inviting the department heads who maybe we didn't ask a specific question, but you want to feed us more information, to do so now in this forum, and or to write written communication. Now, we do have to have our priorities in by the end of the business day tomorrow. Is that correct, Mayor?
Yes.
Yes. So, so either if you want more information that maybe you weren't given a chance to share with us, you can do so now at this time, and or in a written form tomorrow. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Councilor Vancic, you have nothing else to add? Okay. Thank you again, councilors. I just wanted to help you complete this process. Again, this is a tight timeline. I do need these by the end of the day tomorrow. We are having one of our final budget meetings on Thursday morning. We're going to piece these budgets together, and after that, it's really just polish until we get to the council presentation on the 1st. And so I am hoping, I'm feeling pretty done with the budget. There's plenty of room to add these priorities in. So this is by no means a superfluous exercise. We left a lot of cash on the table. So we are really only waiting for your input on this. But I wanted to let you know how we are going to use that input. The first is, of course, to inform us what your actual priorities are. The document that I submit to you on the 1st will not be the perfect expression of your priorities, because I am not participating in this exercise. I have the privilege of authoring the budget and presenting it to you, so it will be filled with my priorities. What I'm hoping to present to you is a document that you can support, that meets the values that you express in this, and then to provide some transparency in that effort by providing all of you back with the priorities that you listed, so that if I didn't do that, if I don't reflect your values in this budget, you'll be able to discuss and meet with each other over this process and say, hey, come on, councilors, we all supported this concept, but the mayor left it out. We need to amend the budget and put this in here. So it's not just my document. It really should be ours. So that's the first step for me to use your priorities to inform what we're going to submit to you, and then for you to use them to decide on whatever the final document is if you want to make changes to it. You'll get an early glimpse of what the council will or will not accept as you're considering making changes. But there's kind of a third way to use this as well. This is going to be published. I'm going to release this to you, and that'll make it a public document, each of your priorities. This is a chance to express your values in the budget. Even if you know that you're the sole vote for something or the only one that cares about something here, it's a chance for you to say to your constituents, to the city at large, to the rest of the council, what you care about and what you think we should be funding. So treat this like the public document, like your own miniature version of the budget presentation. But again, it's a tight timeline. I have the whole day cleared. Our phones will be on all day if you have more questions. We're here to help you answer these, and then we will go into, as usual, a lengthy fall in passing this budget. Are there any final questions I can answer on this? Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, item 10, business by councilors. Councilor Bender.
Actually, I've already spoken to Dr.
Oh, okay.
So we're good.
Okay. Item 11.1, we are going to hold until the next meeting.
Director Putz is simply requesting no action on this. We need to add additional language to the resolution, and it needs to be agendized that way for us to adequately achieve these bonds. So I'm hoping you'll just make no motions or seconds here. We'll bring this back next week.
11.2 is the
Mayor? Could you just give a brief overview of what we're doing here with the general obligation, or not the general obligation, the TIF district, extending that out?
Oh, yeah, that's item 11.2. We'll read that right now.
Oh.
We were just skipping 11.1.
Got it.
11.2 is a resolution extending the life of the tax incremental district number 8 for the purpose of funding affordable housing in the city of Superior.
Need a motion, a second first. The motion is by Councilor Elm, the second by Councilor Bender. So, Councilors, Director Cirque is on the phone as well, and he can add any extra color to this. What this is effectively doing is closing TID district number 8. However, state statute allows the municipality in which the district is housed to extend it for one final year after they make the decision to close it, and to collect all of the increment and use it for, quote, affordable housing. Now, when I say all of the increment, it's worth remembering that all of the taxing entities in the municipality, all of that revenue is captured within a TID. So not just the city, the taxes that would be owed to the city, but the county, the school district, WITC, it's all contained, and that stays in the TID. What this statute allows us to do is, for that final year, and even though we've closed it, instead of turning the cash back over to Douglas County and the school district, we keep it all as long as we put that amount towards affordable housing. That would be about $350,000, a little more than that, and then the next year, all that money comes back on the tax rolls. That sound about right, Director Cirque?
Correct, Mayor.
Questions on the resolution then? Councilor Fennessy.
Yeah. So with that, then, just like when we create a new TIF district, we need to get the buy-in or the sign-off from the other municipalities, Douglas County, the schools. Do we need that same thing for us to close this, but to keep their money for another year? Do we need their approval for that as well?
No, I didn't think so. Not to keep their money. We do need it to close it, don't we, Director Cirque?
Yes, Mayor, and actually, Councilor Fennessy, we did advise the Joint Review Board of this, so they are aware, and there was no objections.
So we don't need official approval from them?
To close
Correct.
the district, but not to collect this.
Not to extend the other year, right. Okay. And can you, in just maybe even just a broad picture, affordable housing, that's a super broad term. What if this goes through, we collect $350,000 for allocated for affordable housing? What would that look like?
Could look like a lot of things. The nice thing about it is not very well defined in the statute. So in a lot of ways, we get to define it. And so I think there's a responsibility on our part that it looks and feels like affordable housing. And so we've talked a little bit about what we would do, and that's ultimately we don't know the answer, and that's why we're proposing an affordable housing fund to hold it till we have a good plan that we can present to the council. What it would most likely look like is working with a developer to provide something, to use that as an incentive to provide affordable housing. We would use this funding the way we've used other forms of funding, including TID districts. This would just be part of that incentive package, as long as the end result is something that most people would agree is affordable housing.
Okay.
But of course, that plan, that has to go through the whole process as well, depending where it is. I mean, if it were in another TID, it would go through the racks. In the case, if we just did it somewhere, if we just gave it to a developer to do on private property, that would have to go through the council.
So it doesn't have to be for this project, it doesn't have to be reinvested back into that district that we're, it can be anywhere in the city?
Yes.
Okay. And then when would it go through council, and when would it just not?
When we have a project.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry. In almost every case, it would go through the council. It has a different path depending where it is. If we incentivize a project in another TID and made this part of that incentive, that involves the racks. But if say a developer wanted to put up affordable housing on a lot that the developer owns, similar to, no, Central Flat's a bad example, but if it was, if it was private property and they just wanted to build a development and they wanted an incentive for that, we would do a development agreement, which would ultimately require, I think that'd be Plan Commission and then Council.
And then council, okay. And then what other TIDs do we have coming up closing? We've got a couple on the horizon, don't we?
Yeah, Director Cirque, I always lose the numbers.
Right now, Councilor Fennessy, we have TIF 7 will be coming up probably in the next year or so. If you remember right, that one is funding, help fund some of the debt on TIF 11, which is the central site. But once those developments kind of come fully on, that will help that, and we'll be able to close TIF 7. We will probably be closing TIF 9 in the next few years as well. TIF 9 is Winter Street Industrial Park. So that's where Ansville is, Guardian, and that area. TIF 7 is North End. Sorry, that's one of our oldest TIFs that we have. I think we started that in about year 2000. So those are kind of the two that are coming up fairly quickly.
Okay. And then I assume this would be, if successful, I'm assuming we would continue to do this once we close. I mean, just for one extra year, capture all of that, and then reinvest it back into.
I don't see why we wouldn't. I mean, it's always nice to get the revenue onto the books sooner, but we're not in a revenue crisis in the city. I mean, and where the Joint Review Board's agreeing with us, housing solves everybody's revenue problems anyways.
Yeah. Is this something new, this extra year that's been tacked on, or have there just not been any TIDs that have closed as I've been on the council?
Well, there haven't been. We haven't closed a TIF in something like 20 years, but I don't know if it's new. Bob Tofty just sort of found it hanging out there. Do you know, Director Cirque?
Sean, are you on the line? Do you know when this was done?
Yeah, this is Sean Lentz with Ellers. I don't remember the specific time that the legislation was put in, but it has become much, much more popular in, I'd say, the last 3 or 4 years. So many, many more communities, large and small, are now taking advantage of this option.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like a creative way to capture that for a year, roll it into something, and then fully close it, and then put that revenue on the tax roll. So I think this is great.
Further questions?
Quick question, Mayor Payne.
Councilor Sutherland.
So that caption it for one more year, what do you, 44% of that would go to the school district, correct?
No.
Would have went to the school district, correct?
No, we get it all.
Okay. I was just thinking with with taxes, the school district gets, I think it was like, what, 38% or 40, something like that? We'd get 33% of that?
Yeah, you're basically correct there, except that the nature of the statute is that for that 1 year, the municipality gets to keep it all. And so where in past years the TID was keeping it all, now we get it for 1 year, as long as we use it for affordable housing. The next year, the TID is dissolved, and they are just taxed like any other property in the city.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? The last thing I would add to this, councilors, there's at least a slight policy implication to the way we're doing this. Because we don't have an actual plan here, we don't know how we'll use it, and it's creating a fund. I didn't put it on your options this year, but in the future, it's a policy choice of the council. We could beef up that fund. If we were successful or we wanted to make a choice to be investing in more affordable housing, that's an option for us going forward. The same way we can fill up the Economic Development Fund or the Small Business Grant Fund. It's just one more thing we can invest in the city.
Sorry, just one more question. Where's that conversation going to start? What to do with that 300, 350, the housing task force?
That's a great start for it. I think, to be honest with you, we would just talk to the developers we know are already in the hopper to build housing and say, hey, can you build something that's affordable housing? Yeah. So we have those conversations on an ongoing basis. One of the things we consider is throwing the thing out for bid, saying we have this much money that would provide an incentive. Who's out there? What can you do?
All right, thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 12.1 is an ordinance introduced by the Common Council amending the traffic code disabled parking zones by adding 1119 Faxon Street.
The motion is by Counselor Bender, the second by Counselor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
12.2 is an ordinance amending the traffic code disabled parking zones by removing 1312 Cumming Avenue.
The motion is by Counselor Elm, second by Counselor Bender. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
12.3 is an ordinance introduced by Mayor Payne, amending portions of Chapter 2, Section 2-34, Order of Business, and Section 2-35, Introduction of Business.
The motion is by Counselor Ludwig, the second by Counselor Elm. Counselors, if I could, I'd just like to give you a little bit of background here. I know it's been a late meeting, so I'll hurry as much as I can. The history behind this, at our May 19th meeting, we had a little bit of a few strange events. As usual, just like this meeting, we had about a third of the council was attending digitally, and in that case, one of the counselors attended late, much like tonight, and so it wasn't exactly clear when that counselor arrived. And we had a few votes that split. They were not unanimous. And in the case of one of those votes, the item was on the agenda twice. And so that frequently happens, as you've heard me talk about over the summer. That happens quite a bit at our council with our current agenda. And so the city attorney approached me the next morning to talk about the potential problem if we voted one way on one thing on the agenda and voted it down in the exact same night further on in the agenda, that could create some pretty strange problems and potentially throw doubt onto whether or not something had actually passed the council or not. So I did a little bit of research. You see the results of some of that before tonight. I'd like to thank Mr. Raverty for putting this packet together for me to look at how some other cities run their agendas and what's recommended by the experts. What does Robert's Rules recommend? What does the League of Wisconsin Municipalities recommend? And and then I looked at our ordinance and I found a couple other things that were strange. The most glaring of which is that we're not following our ordinance now. We don't have a spot on our agenda for committee reports. We put it on there, but that's a violation of how the ordinance is written. So as I spoke to a few counselors, I said either we've got to follow the ordinance as it's written, or we got to change it to what we want to do. And since we had a problem we need to solve anyway about split votes, figure let's just rewrite this thing the way most people run a general meeting. So I went a little above and beyond what the attorney was initially asking for, but I think we accomplished a couple things with what I'm proposing. Just very briefly, what I'm trying to do here is, of course, stop the split votes. We should only vote on one thing per night. Robert's Rules expressly forbids voting on something a second time after it's been dealt with, and so we should bring our ordinances in compliance with that. And second, I think we have an opportunity to increase transparency and accountability with the way we run our meetings. At the risk of sounding disrespectful, I don't think our meetings are very easy to engage with from the general public. In fact, I had an experience a few years ago when I was on the county board where a student approached me and said they were about to watch a city council meeting to learn about it. I was like, don't do that. You'll never understand what's going on. Just come to a county board meeting. We're much simpler. And I think we've run into that problem with the public a few times where they miss what's going on. They come to speak about something. They're not quite sure where to find it. And that's partially because our agendas don't look like most ordinary societies. They have a couple of things that are strange. So I think what the agenda should do is make it easy to read and follow for anybody, whether it's your first time at a public meeting or whether you are a seasoned veteran of complex societies. But it should also be a benefit to the council. This is something I feel very passionately about. Even if it causes us to stay a little later, the council should have more debate, should ask more questions, and should have more discussion. Even if you don't have questions about something that's on the agenda, somebody else might, and it might trigger you to think about it in a different way, and maybe even change how you're going to vote. That's happened to me a number of times in local government, where I didn't think about something at all and somebody brought something else up. And finally, it should be standard enough that it just looks like other bodies. So this is what you have in front of you. I've got a series of proposals. The first is just the order of business. I find this the least controversial here. This just brings our order of business in line with what Robert's Rules and the League of Municipalities recommends. You see both of those documents in the packet I gave you. I'm also proposing removing the consent agenda. Most of you know that I've long had a problem with the consent agenda. Wisconsin state statute allows it. A lot of cities in Wisconsin have it. But I think when we hide stuff away or have the potential to hide stuff away, it's just not very transparent. And most of our business we've shown, I've never used it. I've taken everything out of the consent agenda since I've been mayor pretty much. And so I think we should just talk about, ask questions, make real motions on everything we're proposing. Furthermore, the way our consent agenda ordinance is structured is particularly problematic in that a lot of us were under the impression that any given councilor or the mayor could just yank something out at will, discuss it separately. That's not true. You need a majority vote to do that, and if you don't have it, can't even debate it. The risk of abuse is very high. This is what they do in Madison and Washington all the time. They pile a whole bunch of things together. I mean, imagine a nightmare scenario where we put a couple of conflicting things in the consent agenda just to force you to vote for it, and or shame you if you don't. That's the kind of politics that I don't think should ever be played. So that's my opinion on it. I think we should just strike it all together and do our business right out in the open. And finally, the introduction of business. This is the one that I think maybe could merit a little bit more discussion, but the risk of sounding too much like a grammar nerd, the ordinance is structured with the passive voice, so it doesn't say who can introduce things to the agenda. It only says how they're introduced. We should probably say who's allowed to do it. Otherwise, there's a pretty fair presumption that about anybody could add something to the agenda. If you have opinions on that, I'm happy to hear them. I just suggested that elected officials should be the ones that have the right to put something on the agenda. If you can't convince a single councilor or the mayor that it belongs on there, well, then you don't have a motion to approve it anyway, so it shouldn't go on there. Furthermore, councilors can put stuff on their committees. Department heads can put stuff on their committees right now. I didn't even touch that. I have a couple of examples if you wanted to see how this would work. I recognize this is something new, but most of you have had this for months now. I met with the attorney and the clerk and the council leadership right away at the beginning of June. I met with most committee chairs about it. I think I've spoken to about all of you now. If you have questions about how this would work, I know there were questions about the committee reports. Don't overthink that. I'm just asking committee chairs. This is not an ordinance change. We could do this anyway. I'm simply asking committee chairs to tell us what's going on in your committee. I've always found that helpful on other bodies so we can hear about what's the business, what's being held, what are you working on over the course of months. Finance does this all the time where they leave things, they table it week after week after week as they finish working on something and ask more questions. And so it would just be a chance to ask each other what's going on and report back. You would not be obligated, committee chairs. If you got nothing to report, you don't got to report. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And even if you haven't had a meeting and you want to report what you're going to talk about, you're free to do that too. Correspondence would be a little different. I think that increases transparency a little bit too. Put that right up top. We're not allowed to take votes on that. Those are public documents, and so we have to receive those. So I thought just slap them on the top of the agenda, and then the public can see what those reports are. People can request them. We would provide them immediately. And then finally, new business. Every society I've ever seen has a new business column. This is something that hasn't been touched yet, hasn't been through committee, and either is very routine and need nothing more than a quick vote to approve or referral to an appropriate committee, or it is very controversial. It's been introduced at the last minute, it didn't go through committee, and then the council should pay a little extra attention to it. So that's where that exists. That's about all I have. That's been working on this for a few months now, and quite frankly, I'm pretty excited about it, but I'm more interested in parliamentary procedure than most, and I'm happy to entertain your questions about it. Councilor Fennessy.
Is there an appropriate committee that this could go to just to kind of talk about all this? I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces here, and I mean, we had this sitting on our desk when we got here, and it was emailed to us 3 minutes before the meeting started. I mean, this is, I think, probably 20 pages that describes what we're voting on tonight, and to get that 3 minutes before the meeting starts, I don't think anybody can really do their due diligence to, you to do this. I don't have any problems with this on the surface level at all. I like it. I like the tone that we're going. I like the direction that we're going. It's more transparent. It makes. I would echo your example where if somebody who doesn't know what they're looking for on a city council meeting, this is going to make no sense to them, and that's not the way it should be. We should have meetings that make sense for somebody tuning in for the first time. So I really don't have any major concerns or even any minor concerns about it. I would rather see it just go through a committee so we can talk about this. I mean the 20 pages in here, and then just bring it back for full approval.
Sure. The only thing that's new in the packet are items 5 and 6, which are documents that the council has anyways. All of you got Robert's Rules and the conduct of common councils when you were elected. Everything else was emailed well in advance. So the proposed and current format, committee chairs have had those for a few months now, and I got that to all the councilors last week as we were introducing the proposed ordinance. But it's a good question about committee. I had originally intended to introduce this to committee of the whole, where I thought it would merit more discussion, but again, after weeks of meeting with councilors and discussing it, especially the chairs, there just weren't significant concerns to hash out. The only thing I think could potentially use more work is the introduction of business. I feel pretty shaky on that. So if councilors want to just strike that now and we can find a different way to dispense with that, you're not going to get any grief from me. But the first item, the order of business, it's pretty much been through the ringer at this point. Again, the only appropriate committee I can think is committee of the whole, and I mean, we're all here now, and nobody raised any concerns yet. So that's why I didn't introduce it into committee of the whole in the first place.
I mean, I would rather it go at least somewhere where we can do it. I mean, to get this 3 minutes before the meeting starts. I mean, I realize that we all got Robert's Rules, but this here is specific on how Robert's Rules applies to this ordinance change. We all got the committee chairs all got their thing, but this is how that pertains to this ordinance change. So I mean, we all got it, but to give us the specific pieces as it relates to this ordinance 3 minutes before is, I think it's sloppy. And as much as I like this, I would rather it not be passed sloppy. I think committee of the whole would make a ton of sense. So I'll make a motion to refer it to committee of the whole with power to act.
I'll second that.
Motion is to refer to committee of the whole with power to act by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Sutherland.
Do you need a date?
I would just put it at the next meeting. That's traditionally when we hold them. Discussion on the motion to refer.
Is it possible to invite the league to that committee meeting, committee of a whole, to maybe get their inputs on how it's structured?
I mean, I could invite them, but I'd have to look at who wrote this book. It's been a suggested ordinance for years.
Sure.
I mean, I can try.
I don't have any doubts, just if we have another authority on it.
The league
to
has
discuss.
a parliamentarian, a professional parliamentarian. I can at least reach out. They typically, in their, for the good of the order article, they consult multiple parliamentarians across the state. So I can ask and see if they've got a parliamentarian that wants to weigh in.
Sure, it'd be nice to have an advisor. Thanks.
Councilor Van Sick.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Mr. Raverty for this document. It's extraordinary. It's very organized. It's very professional, and one of the best presentations I've seen since being here. So thanks for that. Also, thanks to everybody that has been working on this. I've always thought our agenda was overly clunky, super outdated, and desperately needed an overhaul. So thanks for taking that initiative. I think this is an easy vote. We've had it for months. This council is no stranger to 11th hour politics at all. So I don't think that effort was sloppy. In fact, I think it was a courtesy. So thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to refer. Councilor Ludwig.
Well, I don't know why we have to wait on this. When was it that you presented this, Mayor, for us to look at, and even gave us a sample of, comparison of what our current agenda would look like versus the revised agenda. And I mean, in our packet, if we look at tab number 3, for example, how the new agenda would look, for any person out in, you know, when I was a new counselor and I came on, I mean, this agenda looked so strange to me because every organization that I have belonged to, we have followed basically what you're proposing. And it took me probably a year on the council to even understand. I had to go and read through our ordinances to understand which were standing committees, which were special committees, and you know, and how can any resident that comes online even begin to understand our agenda and what we're acting on when we don't talk about it? And now with the new proposal, just reading through this agenda, I mean, every committee that we're going to vote to approve their actions, and we'd have chair reports. This is making us much more transparent and easy to understand what we're acting on. So I guess I don't, I commend you, Mayor, for putting all this work into this, and I think we should approve it.
Mayor Payne, man.
Yeah. Councilor Sutherland.
I like the idea, because like Councilor Ludwig mentioned, when we first came on, it was very confusing. Now it's 3 years in, I totally get it. And to switch it up like this, I mean, that's fine. We're doing it for the greater good. But I'm thinking what the vibe I'm getting from Councilor Fennessy maybe is, we all support it, but maybe it can give us some time to understand it, what we're voting on. Because to vote on something you don't understand doesn't make sense. I think that's the purpose of requesting it to go to a committee of the whole or wherever it would go. But either way, I do support making this agenda more simpler, if that's the terminology I want to use. But just to do it right now, maybe if you give us a week or two explaining how it's going to work, how it's going to better everyone in the community, then I think you'd have 100% support on it.
Further discuss, Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you. I believe it's just good policy. This does look very organized, and I've read components of it. I think I understand it, but I would like to, whether it goes to a committee or another next city council meeting, it's fine with me. I like to read it over in its formal form, and this is it. And so I would be very much in favor of just putting it off for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. What does that hurt? I'm not saying the negative side of not voting for it tonight.
And I don't have it.
Oh, Esther doesn't have it? Oh, okay.
Sure, I believe it was emailed, but, okay, further discussion. Okay, I'm gonna call for roll call on the motion to refer.
Can I say something? It's on the referral.
It's on the motion to refer?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I talked with Frog today, and this addresses his initial concern that he brought to the mayor about different items being in different locations on the agenda. Initially, I had some concerns too, because my brain is old and it works a little different than the mayor's, who's young and can adapt quicker than I can. I did have some concerns about a bigger agenda and just working through that as the next couple agendas come up. But I think overall it's well written, and I personally don't see having a committee of the whole meeting to hash this out. I'm comfortable with it. The attorney's comfortable with it. The mayor's certainly comfortable with it. It's your agenda. Ultimately it's the councilor's agenda. And if we have to, my concern was that we might have to tweak it a little bit. And if we have to tweak it, then we just have to tweak it when we run across issues. So I think it's ready to go.
The motion is to refer.
No.
I better take a roll call.
Counselor Elm, you are up first.
Yes.
Counselor Ludwig. No. Counselor Sutherland.
Yes.
Counselor Kern.
Counselor Kern, we didn't hear your vote.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Yes. Counselor Dahlbeck.
No, sorry, boys.
Counselor Ledeen.
No.
Counselor Van Sickle.
No.
Counselor Bender.
No.
Counselor Sweeney.
Yes.
Counselor Fennessy.
Yes.
The motion fails. The main motion. Again, I just want to offer, if the only item here, I wanted to introduce it for discussion, but if you wanted to strike the item regarding introduction of business, that might mean more work. A motion to refer section 3?
Isn't that what you're?
I'm asking to strike it. Strike it altogether. It's a motion to amend and remove section 3. I will bring it back to look different. I just, again, unless we want to meet in committee of the whole to discuss it. If you want to do that, we can, to meet in committee of the whole. I'm just saying I would bring it back in a different form after having some more conversations about it.
I'll make a motion to strike it out.
The motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Elm, to amend and remove section 3 relating to introduction of business. That is section 3, correct?
Yeah. We're amending,
I'm sorry.
well, actually, section 4, we're amending of the ordinance, section 2.35
Yeah.
of the ordinance.
You're referring to the introduction of business, Councilor Fennessy? Section 3.
Section 3 or section 4?
Section 4 relates to the order of business, the introduction of business.
Yep.
That's what you meant?
Yeah.
That's what you understood, Councilor Elm? Okay. The motion is to amend the ordinance to strike section 4, to amend the ordinance to strike section 4 relating to the introduction of business. Is there discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. The main motion, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. And we have no further business and are adjourned. Thank you, councilors.
What just happened?
What?
Hang up. They get themselves in trouble. That might be in record for one of my latest. Check that. Thanks, Warren. Warren, the priorities. So, what I needed from you, so this is general